All right, I'd like to welcome everybody here to the Hoover Building. We are live here at 1071 KNID for the mayoral debate. We have our three candidates here. I am Michael Dansky, the new news director for Chisholm Trail Broadcasting. Happy to be here. This is just on a personal note. I really believe in the power of local government. I think it's the lifeblood of what makes our city tick, and fixing our roads, tending to our schools. So the fact that there's such a good showing here and that there's been a lot of excitement for this debate, really, on a personal note, being here from town for the first time has been really exciting to see that kind of perception. And you have three wonderful candidates from three different sorts of backgrounds here to choose from, and we're excited to have them all here to present their ideas, their platforms, and to discuss the issues that matter to you. And now, I'm just going to go ahead and get started here. I'll explain the rules after I introduce our candidates here. Let's get started with the candidates. We have a local businessman, born and raised in Enid, a veteran of the United States Army. He is the first African-American linesman in Oklahoma history during a career with OG&E, and has conducted several successful businesses in both Texas and here in Enid. Please welcome Milton Mitchell. Our next candidate is another Enid native who currently serves as the representative of Ward 5 on the Enid City Council. She studied at Phillips University, Northwestern Oklahoma University. After spending 18 years as a paralegal, Tammy now owns the Enid Event Company and has co-authored a successful tourism book. Please welcome Tammy Wilson. Our next candidate is originally from St. Paul, Minnesota, and is a veteran of the U.S. Air Force. It was during his time in the Air Force that his work brought him here to the Advanced Air Force Base in Enid, where he worked after his retirement from active duty. He is a member of many local organizations and was selected as the Enid Chamber of Commerce Volunteer of the Year. He now serves as the representative for Ward 5 on the Enid City Council. Please welcome George Payton.
Ward 6, Tammy's Ward 5. Thank you.
My apologies.
It's all right.
Well, it's exciting to have you all here. I do apologize about that there. But we've explained the rules to our candidates. They are aware. And what's going to happen here, we're going to have an opening remarks here in a few minutes. Then we're going to have questions here that I have put together, courtesy of, I want to thank the help of the Enid News and Eagle, who helped put together the questions. And also, obviously, with the help of my colleagues at Chisholm Trail Broadcasting, we're able to do it as well. Each candidate will have a chance to respond to each topic with a 3-minute time limit, and a candidate may ask to respond to another candidate's answer if time allows. If a candidate is directly addressing another candidate's answer, they will have 2 minutes to respond. And then we will have closing remarks, once again with 3 minutes each, and that will be our show. So thank you again for showing up, and everybody for coming out. It's going to be a lot of fun. We are looking forward to it. And let's just go ahead and get started. Opening remarks. Let's go ahead and go to the far end and start with George.
Okay. First, I want to thank everybody for hosting us tonight. I think getting the word out is very important, especially in elections like this one, where there's no state, no federal. It's just a local election, and getting the word out is very hard. So I appreciate the fact that you're hosting the debate tonight. Yes, I served in the Air Force for 23 years. I rose in rank from Airman No Stripe to Major, and was a squadron commander as my last job. While I was in the Air Force, I went from high school graduate to an associate's degree, to a bachelor's degree, to a master's degree. The Air Force opened up many doors of opportunity for me that I took advantage of. So if anybody is looking for something for their children to do, you know what? Service is not a bad way to go. It opens a lot of doors for a lot of folks. In retirement, I didn't do what a lot of people usually do, is they go back home. They serve 20 years or 23 years or however long, and then they go back to where they came from. Well, one of the things that I learned during my 23 years in the Air Force was there's warmer places than St. Paul, Minnesota. And one of those is Enid. And it's also a place with a very big heart. That's what I found while I was stationed here from 91 to 93. Bottom line is I did retire about 25 years ago from the Air Force now, and have been working in the city of Enid since then as a volunteer, doing a lot of stuff. I've been the Air Force Association chapter president here several times over the last 25 years, and I've also served as the Oklahoma State president. Served on national committees for AFA. I helped to found the For Our Kids organization in town, primarily because I have a son with developmental disabilities and I wanted something to be available for him. I'm proud to announce that we have 60 people that are working at that facility now. And anyway, I have a passion for Enid, and that's why I want to be mayor. I think I got more that I can do at another level. So with your indulgence, I'll try that.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Pankonin. We appreciate that. And we'll go ahead down the line. And Tammy Wilson, your opening comments.
Hi, my name is Tammy Wilson, and I grew up here in Enid, went to school here, went to school in Alva, came back here, and this is where we decided that we wanted to raise our kids and have our families, and so we've pretty much been here all of our lives, and now our kids are just about grown, and we're hoping that Enid is a place that some of them want to stay, and I've worked really hard about the last probably 16 years or so in the community, trying to make it a place that people want to live and people that they will love it as much as I do. Essentially, the reason I want to be the mayor is I love Enid. It's basically Enid is my hobby, and it is my job as well. I was able to take something that I loved doing, which was doing different events and things for the community to come together, and I turned that into a business. So essentially, my whole my hobby and my job are kind of just making Enid a great place. And then the last 8 years, I've served on the Enid City Commission, trying to do even more there. Basically, I want Enid to be a place that everybody loves to live and where they love to do business. I want our local businesses to prosper and do well, and I want it to be a place where other businesses want to come and do business. I want it to be a place where our kids don't want to leave and get out of. I want it to be a place where they want to stay and prosper as well. And I think that Enid needs some aggressive leadership, and I think that we can spearhead some initiatives to do all of those things to make people want to stay here and do business here.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And now finally, Milton Mitchell.
I am Milton Mitchell, and I too was born in Enid, and I attended all of the Enid public schools, and I served in the U.S. Army, and I also attended Oteatri Votech, and I'm the 12th child of 15. And I come from a family that's served forever. My dad pastored here for over 65 years, and I am now an associate pastor at the First Missionary Baptist Church, where I serve also as the president of the Brotherhood. I believe that Enid is a place that needs creativity. I think it needs a lot more direction. I think it needs integrity. I think it needs those things that will make for a good, solid community. I think Enid was at one point in time, Enid was the 4th largest city in Oklahoma. And now Enid has drifted down to somewhere between 9th and 12th in the state. And I think Enid is ready to grow. I think it's ready to progress. I think it's ready to prosper. And I think it needs a little shot in the arm in order for that to happen. I think it's time for leadership that will stand up and actually lead, that will lead the way into a better quality of life and being able to bring in more jobs through manufacturing. And certainly we need a lot of creative things like a creative activity district instead of just a regular entertainment district. We need things that are a lot more creative for our children and our grandchildren, also for our young adults. I'm just in love with the city, but I think that it's time for us to really get out here and take advantage of media and like that to really promote our city and encourage visitation and tourism and things of that nature. And I think those are the kinds of things that will help us as far as the city of Enid is concerned. I'm not really one to try to find something wrong or trying to find something wrong with someone. I'm really more focused on finding something to be for. And I am for Enid, and I am for our citizens, and I'm looking for an opportunity to serve you in this capacity and to make a difference for all of us. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much for those opening statements. Fantastic. And we'll just move right into the questions, once again, that were put together with the help of the Enid News and Eagle. Start off right now with the very first one. In any town, and Enid is no different, the office of mayor comes with some exciting yet challenging responsibilities. And with all of the moving parts that work in local government, the mayor is in many cases a facilitator in terms of policy. How confident do you feel about being able to step in, build strong relationships, and work with the city manager and the city commission while taking on an issue? And we'll start with Mrs. Wilson.
Well, I have served on the Enid City Commission for the last 8 years. I have been one of the more vocal, aggressive members of the commission, probably. I feel like I have a good working relationship with all of the commission and the city manager now, anyway. And so as mayor, I think that I would step into that role fairly easily as far as building those relationships. One of the things about me that I think is unique as far as my position on the council is that I don't always see things as black or white. I am very fair and look at things from every side, and I try to understand everybody's perspective. Whether it's one I necessarily agree with or not, I try to understand why somebody else thinks the way that they do. And then, because when you have a body of 7 people that have to make decisions that affect 50,000 people, you have to look at things from every side. You have to think about the way they're going to affect every person in our community. And you have to put your personal beliefs aside to do that sometimes, and have to really accept other people's input. And that is something that I think I am pretty good at, and I try to do that and try to be open-minded and fair and take everyone's perspective, and at the same time measuring how that's going to affect the people that live in the community.
Excellent answer. Absolutely. And we'll go ahead with Mr. Pankonin.
Okay. I'm very confident that I could assume the position of mayor and be quite effective for the city of Enid. As I've said before, my background has exposed me to several different roles, from everything from the newest airman in a squadron to a squadron commander to a senior logistics leader working for the contractor out at Vance Air Force Base, as well as leadership positions within different voluntary organizations. So I'm not unaccustomed to meeting with different crowds. The crowds can be blue collar, they can be white collar. In fact, I came from all of those areas myself, so I have a very good ability to be able to relate to almost everyone that I talk to. I've had 2 years on the commission. I think that helps me. It helps me understand the rules. I'm still asking some of those questions. Why did we do it that way? And because we always have is never the right answer. In fact, it's my experience that because we always have is usually the reason that it needs to be changed. Now, that doesn't mean we need to change everything up front, but it means that everything should be questioned every time. We're in a society where there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of issues that happen every day. And you got to be willing to adapt to that, but you still have to know the process to be able to get the ideas that you want across. So I think the 2 years that I've had on the commission helps me get ready to do that. And I think I'm still new enough to be asking the questions for why are we doing it that way?
Excellent. Mr. Mitchell, when you respond.
I think when it comes to facilitating policy and working with the city manager and the commission, one thing a good leader must know, he has to know how to follow, but he also has to know how to check his own personal ego at the door. But he must be prepared to be in the forefront. It's one of those kind of positions that is, even though it's a non-paid and it's a thankless position, it's one where you cannot afford to leave everything up to individuals who currently are being paid to facilitate or to help as far as promoting our city. So what I look forward to doing is leading and being in the forefront of going out to secure the kind of businesses, the kind of manufacturing, the kind of development that's necessary for the city to be able to move forward. So as a strong leader, I think what the council is looking for, and I think what the city of Enid itself is looking for, is a person that will step out front, that's willing to listen not only to the board or listen to the commission, but be willing to listen to the constituents, be willing to listen to the people and hear from the people. And then with that, it creates enough transparency that as a mayor, you can actually lead in the fashion that we all are looking forward to, which will lend to more prosperity, more success, and a greater increase as far as the city is concerned. So I think you have to be a strong person and yet humble. So it's not all about you, that's for certain, but it is about all of the people. It is all about the direction that the city needs to go in. I think it's time for a really strong mayor that's willing to face the hard questions, to do the difficult things that's necessary to facilitate that.
Excellent. And moving on to the next question. If there's no rebuttals to anything anybody said, I don't think there really should be on that one. The Kaw Pipeline has been one of the more important projects being constructed in the area, with the program intending to ensure sufficient water supply in regards to population expansion and the potential to grow more in the future. What is your stance in regards to the project and its progress to this point? And we'll go ahead and start with how we finished it, Mr. Mitchell.
Okay, well, I think the Kaw Lake project is a blue herring. That's what I think it is. I think that it's a money pit that we could never be able to address. We'll never be able to pay back the money that we're borrowing to try to make something happen that we'll never be able to maintain it. Right now, at the cost that it is, if every man, woman, and child in Enid, Oklahoma, it would cost every man, woman, and child about $10,000 to complete that project. For every water tower that exists in Enid, Oklahoma, it would cost approximately $26,000, I'm sorry, to complete that particular project. So I think that one of the statements in one of their reports said that a continuing reliance on groundwater is a very viable option for the city. And it has two other options that were included, but there were a lot of options that were excluded from the final report, I guess, executive summary for the Kaw Lake project. In the original plan for the Kaw Lake project, and I do have the original report, it says that the Kaw Lake option appears to be the most uneconomic option for the city. However, if a regional water supply were developed, where the city treated and sold water to other municipalities, this option may become more attractive to the city. We already have other cities that are currently purchasing water from Enid, like Covington, that are already approaching entities like the Salt Fort Water District, because they're already saying that it's too expensive for them to purchase water from the city of Enid. So the projects that we have that are going, like the Kaw Lake project, it's what's causing all of our water bills to be extremely high and getting ready to go higher. But the very financing that we're getting from that, we could have built our own lake, our own reservoir. We could have already built at least 25 more new wells. We could have repaired all of the dilapidated wells that do exist now, brought them up to par and modernized them. And like I say, dug 25 more new wells for a third of what this Kaw Lake water project is going to cost. I know that...
30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. I know that I got a minute. You said I got a minute? 30 seconds. I know. Okay. See, you interrupted me. Do I get extra? I know. I just truly believe that somehow or another that the city of Enid, that the citizens voted for this particular project, but I think that the amended report left out all of the things that were original And that's what they missed when they made that vote. I think if they had been privy to this first original report, which you can see the differences like night and day, that had they been privy to the first report, I don't think they ever would have voted for that project.
That's sound.
Thank you.
Excellent, excellent, sir. And we'll go ahead and move along. Ms. Wilson.
Okay, so the city started looking for an answer to the water solution several years ago, before I was ever on the council. But around 2009, they started trying to figure out what they could do about the water problem, and they tasked somebody with doing a study about building a lake. And so that was the first thing that we asked about. And that the answers came back, and it was going to be a pretty expensive thing to get into. And so they started looking at some of the other options, the well fields and the pipeline, and there were other options. They asked, hey, what are some of our other options besides just building a lake? So they came back with the other options. And then around that time, probably around 2011 is when I got elected the first time. And for the first 6 years that I was on the city council, we spent countless hours and days and months studying all of the reports that were coming back from the scientists and the people that do these things. And we talked for hours just tirelessly about the different options, and we asked lots of questions, and we learned a lot about how all of this works. And all of those meetings were public. None of them were private meetings. They were all open to the public every time. And we had lots and lots and lots and lots of those meetings. And I believe they were probably reported on in the paper, so we always tried to make sure that the public knew what was happening with that. And after all of those years of looking into every single thing and trying to figure out what the best option was, a lake was going to be very costly, and the pipeline is also very costly. And it turns out that they're not that far apart in cost. And what ended up being the determining factor was that we looked at the cost of a lake, which is about $300 million, and it was about a 50-50 shot of it actually being a reliable source of water. And so that was a little bit scary to spend that kind of money on something that was not a sure thing, because we did not, any of us, want to vote on something that spent $300 million of your tax money and then a lake not fill up. And that's a very real, issue, because we have Lake Optima that's not very far from here that the city did the same thing. They built a lake and it's a big empty hole, and none of us wanted to take that risk. So then we started looking at other ways we could do it. We thought we could do some more well fields. We could do we could do a pipeline. And so the more we looked at the pipeline option, it was not the sexy, exciting option that any of us really wanted. We all wanted a lake too. I mean, that's a way more fun thing to have, a lake, than have a pipeline. But at the end of the day, the Kaw Lake, the way that it is fed, it is a reliable source of water, and we knew that by doing that, even though it's expensive and it's a lot of money, we knew that at the end of the day you would be able to turn your faucet on and have water no matter what. And so that seemed to be the most responsible thing that we could do in that situation.
Right on the buzzer. Nice job. And Mr. Pankonin, how do you respond?
Okay. I won't repeat a lot of what has already been said, but I will tell you a few things. The modernizing wells, that could probably be done and make it more efficient, but the real issue isn't modernizing wells or drilling more wells. The problem we have is the water table is becoming lower and lower. So you have to drill further and further down to get to the water, which means that the wells are drying up. The water field is drying up. So drilling more wells or modernizing the equipment is not going to help that solution. So we needed to find something else. It could be a lake, as Commissioner Wilson was saying, and it's an option that everybody would like. I think I know I would have. I wasn't there during the original talks, and frankly was not involved enough to hear all the discussion that was going on when that issue was discussed. But in fact, everybody would rather have a lake than not, if that was really a choice. The problem is, if you have a lake and you don't have anything that feeds water to it, then you run the chance of having a dry hole. The reason Kaw Lake is not going to dry up is because it's fed by the Missouri River, and that's not going to dry up. So there are issues that come with pulling the water from another lake and transporting it for 70 miles. And nobody wants, I mean, the logistics issues of doing that are really very involved, which is why the last 2 years has been spent by engineers looking at how to do that, what are the solutions, what are the workarounds, what are all the things that we have to do to make that work. So, but in fact, that is the only way that we can kind of guarantee ourselves that 20 years from now, we're not going to be wondering where water is. We're going to have water. And almost every other option does not provide that opportunity. So, I guess that's the main issue that I wanted to make was, again, I would like to have a lake too, but it's got to be a lake that's got water in it, not a hole that we hope rains enough to fill up with water.
Any responses from any of the candidates?
I certainly have one. When it says that, all that sounds really good, but 300,000 is a lot less than $500 million. And that's what Call Lake is going to end up costing, probably a lot more than that when it's all over. When it comes to Call Lake itself, I think it was constructed, 1975 and put into to work, I guess, in the early 80s. It's already silting in. It'll probably be completely silted in within the next, 20 or 30 years, probably. That's just the way it is. That's because any man-made lake is going to silt in, and that's just the way that it is. So man-made lakes are typically constructed to last for about 100 years. When it comes to feeding the lake and how we can fill the lake, of course we have Turkey Creek, Black Bear Creek, we have Skeleton Creek. It was able to fill the lake easily. Our water aquifer, the reason it's not able to recharge is because they're pumping water out at such a rate to help other entities. That's what's depleting our water supply. There is absolutely nothing wrong with wells or having wells or drilling more wells, especially if you're not pumping all of the water out and sending it into other entities or other places. And that's currently what the city is doing. That's a no-win situation. Okay, that's a no-win situation. I still believe that the lake is, building our own lake is going to create revenue, it's going to create recreation, and it's just a viable thing that we should have looked into a lot more and done, as far as I can see.
Any reply from Tammy or George?
I think the number 300, maybe she said 300,000.
300 million.
It was 300 million.
300 million? 300 million?
300 million for either one.
Yeah, 300 million was still a big difference between 300 million and 500 million.
Well, the lake, the pipeline right now, the number we're shooting for is 315 million, and the lake was right around 300 million as well. So they ended up being about the same amount of money. And when you're talking about, I know that's still a lot of money, but they ended up being close in the amounts. And so our decision was to go with the thing that was more of a sure thing than a gamble.
Well, but one's going to expire a lot sooner than the other. One's going to last 100 years, where the other one is just bound to run out within the next 30 to 40 years, if not sooner. So that's a big difference, when we talk about the long run and what you're trying to do for the long run. In the long run, we want to be able to sustain good water, but we also want to be able to add to our city. We want our city to grow. We want it to be viable. We want to have good recreation for our citizens. And that's what the lake will do. The car pipeline is never going to do that, ever. It's just never going to be able to produce that. Plus, you're trying to pump all that water uphill for over 70 miles. And I think it's at 300 and some million. Have they bought a piece of pipe yet? Have they even cleared enough right away to make the pipeline even happen? There's still a lot of things that still have to be done in order for that to even come to a fruition. And we're borrowing money at a terrible rate. $57 million here, $57 million there. And the citizens are paying an absorbent rate on their water rate. I mean, it's going up every year. I simply tried to water my grass last year. I watered my grass last year. And we watered once a week, and at the end of the month, my water bill was $200 higher than it normally is. And that's after putting in a $600 separate meter so that I wouldn't be charged sewer and like that. So even after paying that kind of money for a separate meter, I still had an extremely high water bill. And people are kind of tired of their water bills going up year after year after year for something that's really unsustainable. That's that KNID project.
I went ahead and I realized I gave Mr. Mitchell two-minute segments, so I will give each of you a chance to reply, and then we'll move on to the next topic.
Go ahead.
You're all set? Okay. I'll be fair to everybody. All right. One of the things you'll notice when driving through town is undoubtedly the road conditions, which are well beyond decrepit in some areas. I moved to town 3 weeks ago and took out one of my rims the first day. Welcome to Enid, Mike. There have been several reports of damage to vehicles, including flat tires and damage to vehicle rims. That's right. In regards to remedying the situation, what is the best course of action, whether it be resealing, repaving, or some other possibility? We'll start with Mr. Pankonin.
Okay. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the roads are in absolutely great shape in Enid, Oklahoma. That's not true. I am going to tell you that the city has spent quite a bit of money over the last 2 years while I've been on the commission, because one of the things that we did during the budget process was to make sure that we allocated more funds for that. Was it enough? Probably not. Is it ever going to be enough? Probably not. But the question is not whether or not roads need to be repaired. It's what are you going to use to repair them? Exactly what part of the budget, we have to make a determination, what part of the budget do we want to decrease so that we have more money for roads? Because that's really the answer. We only have so much money coming into the city, and you have to allocate that among all the priorities in the city. So we could do exclusively roads if we want to, if we didn't want to pay the police or the fire department or any of the other departments that are in the city. But in fact, what it is really a balancing act in the budget. It's trying to find out the right amount, spend as much as we can, spend it as wisely as we can, which is sometimes filling potholes, and sometimes it's redoing roads, which is a much more expensive option, but it lasts a lot longer. So I guess my takeaway on that is we either have to figure out, and we welcome inputs from all the constituents. What do you think we're spending too much money on? And we can move some of that money around, because that's entirely within our purviews as commissioners and as the city commission. So I'd like to do that. The other alternative is, should we raise some more taxes so that we can just repair roads and set it aside for roads exclusively? I don't know about you, but I'm not after, I don't think there's that many people that have tugged on my coattail and said, you know what, we need to raise taxes a little so we can do some more road work. So I guess those are kind of the decisions. I agree that the roads need work, and I can tell you that me and the other commissioners have been working on trying to do that and increasing the funds available for that. And it's going to continue in the future as well.
And we'll go down the line to Ms. Wilson.
The council as a whole definitely needs to continue putting more money into the streets. It's a never-ending problem that every single city in the country has. It's literally something every city struggles with, and we talk to other leaders in other communities, and we all face the same problem all over the country. Because they get used every single day by everybody with a car. So they get damaged every single day, and they are just very, very hard to keep up with. With that said, we have, in the last 5 years, we have spent $28.5 million in 5 years on our local streets. And we put money into the street budget every single year. And every year when the budget time comes around, we have the discussion, okay, we got to put more into streets, because we know that that is an important issue to our citizens. And it's important to all of us, and we all have to drive on the streets too. And every single year we have that discussion, and we try to, do as much as we can with what we have for our streets. And like I said, $28.5 million in the last 5 years, and then this year budget will be coming up again in April, and we'll decide, what we have to do, what we can work with this year. And in about the last probably 20 years or 20 or 25 years, there have been 3 different street bonds that have come up, and they've been voted down. And I know and I hear from people that it's because they put this in there or they put that in there, and so they voted against them, and I understand that, but when we don't have any other way to do it, we can only do with what we have. And so something that I think is very important for people to think about is that whenever we bring different projects forward that, maybe don't seem like they're related, but when we bring different projects forward, sometimes those projects are designated to generate revenue, and then the revenue that comes in goes back into our infrastructure like streets and water and things like that. Such as, the event center is always a hot button topic, but the thing is that when people come here and they spend their money at the event center and then they go back to wherever they live, we get to keep their money. And so that money then goes into the operating fund of the city. And so the way the city operates is kind of like a big puzzle. You think about, well, I want money to fix streets, and I want money to do this, and I want money to do that, but I don't want to support this other thing. But this other thing is the thing that's going to generate the revenue to fix all these things that we want to fix. And so when you're taking your money out of town and you're going shopping somewhere else because they have better streets in Oklahoma City and you go there to shop or whatever reason, that money, when that money leaves town, that is money you're taking away from the infrastructure. So streets are never ending. It is something we all know needs to be done, and we just keep pushing for it. And that is something I would definitely push every single time that we go into budget, is we got to do something about streets. And if it was something that the citizens wanted to do and we wanted to do a bond issue just for streets, I would be supportive of that.
And finally, Mr. Mitchell.
I probably should be looking back there at my wife, and she can do like that and tell me I'm getting close to my time, right? Hey. But I think that, your lakes, your reservoirs are going to create jobs, they're going to bring in businesses, create better revenue. We have so many restrictions that keep popping up in the city of Enid, and businesses are saying we don't want to be here anymore, because you keep on bringing all these restrictions in, and you keep coming up with more rules and regulations and changing the rules and changing the regulations and putting more on us that we're not able to keep up with what it is that you're demanding, so they're leaving. That's revenue that we would have to use directly in street and road repair. We should have our own civil engineering department that's completely dedicated to road repair and construction. Right about now, we talking about the city paying at the event center. Every time you have an event down there and something happens and they don't get enough money out of the event, who has to pay for whatever the vendors are asking at that event center? The city of Enid. The city of Enid is paying that. Like when Reba McEntire came to town, and of course you can't sell enough seats in the event center to pay her management, pay the crew, and all like that. So when everything is over and done with, then the city has to make up the difference, and the city is paying that. I mean, what kind of a situation are we putting the city in doing that kind of stuff? When that's money that really we shouldn't be in the entertainment business. That's not the city's job. It's not the city's job to be in the real estate business and things like that. Instead, we should be taking care of the city's business. And when it comes down to those kinds of things, then private companies, those entrepreneurs, they should be paying their own bills and not us paying their bills for them. So those are monies that we should be being able to utilize toward our own street. I mean, 50 years, our roads are getting worse and worse and worse, and we're saying, well, we don't have any idea how to do it. When you impose the 1-cent tax to do the Call Lake project, it's already in place. How about discontinue that project? We can go through the legal ramifications behind it, but get it done, get out of the project, then turn around and reallocate that 1-cent tax. And how about taking that money? And instead of trying to build an uphill pipeline, how about let's fix the roads in Enid? We can fix every road in Enid for the money that you're spending on that project. And build the lake.
Thank you again to all of our listeners out there on 107.1 KNID. And of course on Enid Buzz over there for our streaming. Appreciate you there. Awesome. Yeah, that's right. And we're just going to go ahead and it looks like everyone's settled. So we're going to go ahead and move on here. Well, go ahead. In December of 2018, there was a vote by the Enid City Commission that denied support for the United Kituwa Bank of Cherokee Indians bid to build a casino here in Enid. The vote was 5-2 to deny any sort of agreement or support for the project. And George, you were one of the ones voting to deny it, and Tammy voted for the casino. Now, I'll give each of you a chance to explain your position on the project and why you voted the way you did, and also giving Mr. Mitchell a chance to give his thoughts on the project. Starting with Mrs. Wilson.
Okay, so I voted in favor of the casino for a couple of reasons, but essentially, the casino had, they had come to us and they talked to us about doing different things within the community. Aside from just building the casino, they had talked about also providing some facilities for family-friendly activities for younger people. And, that's something I hear every single day that we need and we agree that we need. And so that was, enticing to me. But aside from just that, they would have been, casinos do not pay sales tax or property tax. So we had worked out an agreement that they would pay the city a pretty big lump of money, which was about $11 million. And that was one of the things we talked about. And one of the other things that we talked about was that the state of Oklahoma has the right and the ability to approve it, whether a city approves it or doesn't. And that has actually happened in other cities in Oklahoma. And so my feeling about it was that if we were going to have a casino in town, then I felt like the city should have some, have some say in kind of how it went down and be a partner in that decision. Because if they were going to be here, then I would rather our community benefit from it than if we voted, against it and the state approves it and they come here anyway, and then we get nothing out of this situation whatsoever. They were very kind. They were very friendly. They seemed like people that I felt like we could, have a good partnership with. And I felt like if they were going to be here, then we should, as a community, benefit from it. I understand the implications that come along with a casino and places like that why people are very opposed to them. I understand that part of it. But, some of the things we talked about with them were, making sure that some of the money was spent on programs, that people might need help with gambling if that was an issue. But by and large, for the most part, to me, it was a business decision. And I felt like that our city would benefit from it far more than we would have any negative impact by it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. George, obviously you voted to deny it, and here's your time to speak.
Okay. There's a couple of reasons, a few reasons that I denied it, or that I voted to deny it. It's true that they were going to come in and said that in further phases they were going to offer other opportunities, maybe a movie theater, maybe other entertainment venues that would benefit the community. But we get back to the point eventually that there's no sales tax generated from them. There's no money that goes to the city for any of that stuff. If they give us an agreement up front that says that they're going to give a certain amount of money, and if they remain in business and continue to make money and continue to keep the doors open, we would realize that. If they don't, then we would not. And in fact, this particular tribe that was trying to attract us has only had one other casino that I've heard of, and that's a casino that's been tied up and closed for the last 5 years, tied up in litigation. Well, the last thing that I wanted was to build a brand new facility or have them build a brand new facility and have expectations of $11 million coming in over the next however long to find out it didn't work, or there might be other things that get in the way of the facility opening. So that was a concern for me, at least to start with. The problems with addiction. There are people that have addiction problems to gambling, and you're not going to cure them by not having a casino here, and I understand that, and I've heard that from many of the constituents. But I think one of the comments that I've seen in Facebook said it best. If somebody is really an addict and they've lost everything they have and all they have is their bicycle, they're not gonna get on their bicycle and go to Blackwell. But if there's a casino in town, they are gonna get on their bicycle and they're gonna come and the hole's gonna get deeper. So we can't protect everybody from themselves, and that's not what we should be doing. On the other hand, I think the social cost to our community was gonna be higher than the benefits that we might raise from that. So I voted against that.
Excellent. Mr. Mitchell, your response?
Well, it was like saying when one family member or when families are beginning to squabble, and when the family is squabbling, they really don't want anybody else involved in it. From what I'm understanding is it's an intertribal squabble that was happening that caused their casino to be able to be closed down. So it was just like family squabbling with each other. And so that's what caused that casino to be shut down. There wouldn't have been an intertribal squabble in Enid. So that was not, shouldn't have been a factor in it, period, about whether or not it was accepted or rejected. I do agree with Tammy when she says it is an issue that ultimately is determined by the state. The city doesn't determine it. And I agree that it's pretty ludicrous to say, I'm going to give you $12 million, and you say to me, no, I don't think I want that $12 million. That's kind of ridiculous to not take that, especially when you're talking about trying to have money to fix the streets. Good Lord, $12 million, you can fix a lot of streets with $12 million. And so it seems a little ludicrous. Plus the fact that, they wanted to have there's always increased police presence at casinos and like that. So I'm not a gambler, and I don't believe in gambling, and I wouldn't encourage anybody to do it. One thing that I did like about them was they were not selling alcoholic beverages there and things like that. So still, if the state comes in and okays it, you just lost out on $12 million. So, that seems a little bit ridiculous. And here's another thing. I talked to the police. I went over to the police department and talked to the chief of police over at the police department. What people often do is try to instill fear into other people about something that's going to happen. Instead of actually coming out with facts, they come out with opinions. And by the time they got through with their opinions, they had everybody afraid, they had everybody confused, they had everybody bamboozled about it. And ultimately, you turned around and you voted on it based on fear and innuendo, not on facts. So I think we're better served when we have facts, because an informed decision, you can make a better decision with an informed decision than you can with just innuendo.
Can I add one thing?
Absolutely.
Okay, and another consideration was that if the city said no, and maybe even if the state said no, there was not anything stopping them from going right outside city limits and building one anyway, which then we don't benefit from that at all. So to me, it was like you said, that it's a lot of money that could go to infrastructure that we kind of said no to. So
plus they were talking about buying brand new police cars for the police department. And again, I missed that point, because when I talked to the chief of police, they said that crime is not increased because of the casinos. In fact, when casinos are around, crime goes down, not up.
Mr. Pankonin, a rebuttal?
I understand the issues as both of my fellow debaters have discussed them, but I still feel that the social cost, we're not talking about anything about social cost to those that would be hurt by the casino going in. To think that the $11 million would come in and there's absolutely nothing going to go out of city budget, or medical expenses, or mental health expenses, or counseling expenses. I think there's a great, maybe crime doesn't go up in the casino, in the near area of the casino, but if somebody is a gambling addict and they need money, crime might go up somewhere else on the other side of town that ends up supporting it. So I don't know that I agree. I'd have to look at the report that the chief is referencing. But I think there's a lot of social harm that comes from feeding people that are addicted to any activity, including gambling.
I'm gonna give each person a chance, 2-minute chance to rebut, and this will be the final part of the topic, so. Who wants to go first?
Well, you got social ills that's from smoking and drinking and all of those things. But, you know, you can no more regulate a human being concerning those kinds of things, because a person has free will and free choice, and they're going to exercise that no matter who we are or where we are. And that is a fact of life. So, you know, they do have in place when it comes to gambling. They have Gamblers Anonymous, and they have other kinds of entities that are in place for people to get counseling if they have problems with gambling. Just like if you have problems with drugs, you can go to a rehabilitation clinic. So they do have things in place for people who have those kinds of problems. And casinos, typically when they come in, they pay for those things. That's not the city's burden to do that. That's the casino's burden to do that. So again, you know, when we begin to say that it's the city's burden, that's not the city's burden. It never would be. So, you know, that's, you know, we still have to, again, facts is what we want to deal with. And we don't want to just about opinions and like that. But what I'm talking about is facts. Those are facts.
And that's the negotiating power we would have had, is we would have been able to make sure that some of those things happened, you know, and like you said, that's something that comes along with the casinos. They kind of, that's part of the deal. And if you don't have any negotiating power, you can't necessarily ensure that those things are going to happen. So.
But insulting people and disrespecting people is not the way to resolve issues or a way to come to a conclusion or a resolution about things. From what I saw in that particular meeting, those individuals were so totally disrespected, and that is not the city of Enid. That is not who we are as a people. We respect one another, even if we don't agree. We don't have to agree about everything, but we don't have to be disagreeable, and we don't have to be disrespectful. And in that particular meeting, it was very disrespectful. And I was raised that you should respect your elders.
And George, you have a final word on the topic?
Yeah, one final comment. The other reason that I voted the way I did was I had, as many of the commissioners do, I had feedback from the constituents in the community.
Didn't your community vote for that? Didn't your community say, the majority of your community say they wanted it?
I seen it.
Just answer.
I believe there's a newspaper report, but I don't know what the basis was, and I don't know if it was a statistically correct sample. I don't know what the background was on it. What I do know is that people that called me and talked to me on the phone or talked to me in person when I was walking around my community, 90% were against, 5% were for, 5% were indifferent. And that's maybe not true, and my sample was not a statistical sample that was, but it was those that decided that they wanted to come up and address me about that issue. And I think as a commissioner, I think as a mayor, we represent our constituents, and I did.
I did a poll, and I questioned people, and I got 120 or 119 responses. 89 were yeses and about 20 no's. So that was, I mean, and that was part of the reason I voted too, is because I represented the people that spoke to me. So
Absolutely. Awesome. And we're going to have one final question before our closing remarks. And we will go with the growing and changing needs of a population of Enid, new businesses to go along with the long-tenured establishments are important, not only for economic growth, but for bringing new experiences and variety to people in terms of their spending options. What are some things that the city is currently doing well, and what are some things you would do differently in regards to attracting new businesses here to Enid? And we'll go ahead and start with Mr. Mitchell.
I'm scared I'm going to be long-winded again. Well, I think that what we have to do, one thing we were talking about earlier that I mentioned in my opening statement was about having a creative activity district. And I'm sure that some of my constituents have talked to other developers as well as I have about as far as the theater and like that. But we need to have just create a whole district, I think, right off of the downtown. And that will generate traffic for our downtown and people to spend money in the downtown area. Having vendors in there, like with companies that come in with virtual reality and even old-fashioned bumper cars and things of that nature would create that entire district right off of the downtown. And it would help to revitalize the downtown, help bring in traffic, help bring in tourism. We had a young group come from Alva, from the university, and they were saddened because they had nowhere to go and nothing to do, young college students. We have Northern Oklahoma College, we have O.T. Autry, we have Northwest Oklahoma State out here, and those individuals are currently just leaving town because they have nothing that they can do in town. But a creative activity district like that, to include the arts and like that, everything from jazz to country and western, outdoor vendors and things of that nature, is going to generate interest, it's going to create activity that's creative, that's good, that's wholesome, that's going to revitalize our downtown, it's going to bring in revenues into the city that again, we can use for our infrastructure and street repair and like that. And other than that, I think that as mayor, it'll be my job to go out and talk to manufacturers like Invenergy or Blue Ridge, where they're building these windmills, and they're currently about to put another $44 million worth of windmills going out west. And I would like to see us bring in manufacturing and development, because whether we like those or not, whether we agree with them or not, they're here and they are going up. So we are centrally located to be able to bring in 500 to 1,000 jobs just through manufacturing. It's things like that, creativity like that, that will help our city.
Excellent. And George, we'll go down to you.
Okay. Economic development is one of the things that I think that our city really needs to have. I believe that the Enid Regional Development Authority has been doing a good job of attracting different companies. I have accompanied them to ICSC conference in the past, as has Commissioner Wilson. And that's a great place to be able to meet people, to sit down and talk with people that, you know, if you want a Target, you can talk to the people from Target. That doesn't mean they're going to come, but it means that you have a forum, you have a place where you can speak with them and tell them what the benefits are of coming to a place like Enid. So I'm very much into economic development. I support new businesses, especially businesses that have long-term, larger employee workforce. And what I mean by that, so a plant, if we can attract a plant, that would be great. What I'm less in favor of is we have 100 construction workers, we're going to build a building, and then there's going to be 2 full-time employees after it's done. Well, that doesn't help the economy that much, 2 or 3 or 4, whatever the number you use. But the point is, during construction, you have a lot, and then everybody's gone. That doesn't help us that much. The last thing that I'd like to say is, on this issue is, while I want to attract businesses, I want to attract businesses that are unique and somewhat different than the businesses we have in town. What I don't want to do is attract a business, maybe a standard grocery store chain that doesn't have anything different to offer our community than the chains that we currently have or the stores that we have. I don't want to put a business, an industry that's been providing business and support for our community for 30 or 40 years out of business by bringing somebody else in to compete with them. Now, if they're coming in with something different, and if I can use the grocery store chain for a minute, if you got a place like Whole Foods or one of those Sprouts that's into a different kind of, providing a different kind of food for our community that nobody else currently offers, then I'm all for helping them and trying to attract them. But what I don't want to do is attract businesses just to compete with the businesses that we have that have been good community businesses that have supported our community over the years.
And Tammy Wilson, what do you think about business development in Enid?
Economic development is definitely one of the biggest things that is one of the biggest challenges we face. The ERDA, the Economic Development Alliance, has done an incredible job over the last few years in bringing different companies to us and different businesses, as well as our retail consultant that we have. And those are not people that we just rely on to go out and bring things to us. We actually do work hand in hand with them doing those things. Like George said, I've been to the ICSC conference, the International Convention of Shopping Centers is what I think it is. You know, I've been almost every year, and I've sat in those rooms and those meetings with those people, with the ERDA and with our retail attractions company, and I've sat and I visited with those different businesses, and I've seen how competitive a market it is, and it's very difficult because Enid is not just competing for Enid. We are competing against everybody else in the country and in our state. And just as a note, Enid is the 7th. We don't have last year's numbers yet, but the most recent numbers is 7th. Enid is 7th in sales tax revenue in the state of Oklahoma. So we're not the 7th biggest city, but we are the 7th in sales tax revenue right now. So and our numbers are just getting better over last year, over those numbers. But so we have to remain, as a city, one of the things that we need to do is we need to remain competitive. We cannot stop and think that we've done enough. We did a lot of big projects in a hurry, and then the last couple of years we've kind of backed off a little bit because we've had some other things we need to take care of as far as infrastructure and those kind of things. But we can't stop, and we cannot stagnate, and we cannot move backwards. We have to keep moving forward with economic development. We have to keep bolstering our local businesses that are here and that have been doing business in Enid for years, because they are the backbone of our community by far. And I definitely don't want anybody to ever think that our current businesses are being overlooked, because they're not. And we have a lot of ways to support our current local businesses. But we can't stop trying to attract better paying jobs here either. We need, like George said, we need industry here that will pay better wages and that will offer more jobs and that will be here for a long time. And we need something that will make Enid unique. We need to bring in some kind of manufacturing or industry that will make Enid unique and be different, to attract more people here. But in all of that said, when you're trying to attract a business or keep a business, you have to have quality of life. And quality of life is always something that has been important to me. And that is things like our parks, our trails, all of those things that are kind of seem maybe frivolous. And as far as not having things to do, I don't agree with that statement at all, because I did 15 events by myself last year that I put on. Then there's Main Street and there's the Chamber. There's always something to do in Enid. And I would definitely agree that maybe it's not that easy to find out or know about it, but they are happening. There is always something to do in Enid. You just have to find it. We have the longest running orchestra in the state of Oklahoma. We have the most active community theater in the entire state of Oklahoma. We do a show every 6 weeks at the Gaslight Theater. We have a lot of things that are going on and a lot of things that are happening, and we are working to bring more of those things to Enid. And so all of those things go hand in hand, and definitely have to keep pushing for economic development.
Excellent. Do we have any further comments or rebuttals to anybody said? Mr. Mitchell?
Well, I think we certainly do have things that are available, and I do agree with Tammy, but we just need more. We just need more. And when it comes to manufacturing, that's why I was talking about Invenergy and like that. You could bring in a company like that and create 500 to 1,000 jobs just immediately, because when you talk about $44 billion worth of windmills that are going in, it takes quite a bit of manufacturing to be able to maintain those. So as mayor, it would be incumbent upon me as mayor to go and sit down and face-to-face and talk with those CEOs and try to encourage them to come, since Enid is centrally located for everything that they're doing in Kansas, Colorado, Texas, Missouri, Louisiana, and like that. And when we talk about not hurting our local businesses, I think giving tax credit to companies like Staples and not giving them to our local companies like PDQ Printing, we never gave them. They've been here 50 to 75 years. We don't give them any kind of tax credits. But yet still, we get these other entities that are coming in them, the academy, and I'm not knocking any of them, don't get me wrong, but here we are, we're paying and giving tax credits to these companies when we have local companies that have been in for 50, 75 years, and we're not supporting them like that. I mean, what could they do with tax credits like that would come to them every year? So, you know, when we talk about supporting our local businesses, let's not just talk about it, let's actually get it done. So we can also bring in technology like Google and Envirotech and industries like that, but we have to go and get them to bring them in. They're not just going to just come. We have to go and lobby them to come here. And that's the job of the mayor to do things. That's the mayor's job to do things like that.
We have any rebuttals for George or Tammy?
I did, but I lost it. I had something else. Oh, as far as the local businesses, we do, that issue actually came up when the Old Navy and the Staples issue came up. They were companies that were doing, you know, Old Navy is is a pretty big sales tax revenue generator in Enid. And it came to the point where they were maybe going to have to leave, and they were having some trouble, and they came to the city, and we did come up with some ways to help them with that. And that issue came up about, well, you don't do that for other businesses, but in fact, we hadn't really been faced with that before, and it was something, you know, that other communities were doing, and we tried it, and you know, and they are still viable companies in our town. But by the same token, we do have capabilities to help local businesses. The ERDA has things in place to help local businesses that are here, not just the big box stores and the big businesses. There are lots of things that the city and the ERDA can do for small businesses too. So those are some things that I would encourage people to look into because they are there.
They quickly need to talk to PDQ, and they quickly need to talk to Merrifield, and there's a couple other companies that are in town that are in trouble right now. And they don't seem like they have any kind of recourse. And they're all thinking about that they may have to close. I'm just sharing it with you.
Yeah, they need to see those things to help.
They certainly.
Well, that will bring us to the end of our questions segment. And to close things out, I'm going to go ahead and give everybody the traditional 3 minutes to give a final closing statement. And we're going to start on the far end with George and move our way to Mr. Mitchell.
Okay. I'm retired from the Air Force, but I'm also retired from business. I have the time that I think it's going to take to be able to do the job of mayor. Mayor is not a 9 to 5 job Monday through Friday. It's not a 24/7, 365 job, but it is a job that requires commitment to the community at all different times of the day. I think I have the time available to be able to do that. I think in my military career previously and in my career after that, the two traits that were talked most about in the performance appraisals that I received were that are benefits to me are my ability to provide leadership and facilitation. And I think I've shown that on the council during the last couple of years. There was a time where the council didn't get along that well. And I think when I came in, I think that changed. And I don't know if I'm the only reason that it changed, but I'm part of the reason that I think it did change. I think we've become a much more civil organization. I think we get a lot more done than maybe was done in the past. And I'm not trying to badmouth anybody else. I'm just saying everybody's got strengths and everybody's got weaknesses. And I think one of my strengths is being able to take people in a room that have varying opinions and allow them all to present their opinion in a professional way, and then to vote on that in a way that doesn't disparage anybody, or it gives everybody a chance to say what they want to say, and results in a great decision. Strong mayor, I think the mayor should be strong, but I think the mayor should be strong in the right way. I think our form of government has a city manager that we pay, and we pay, I think, good by his own admission, quite well. But we pay him to run the city. He runs every department in the city. That's what we pay him to do. If he isn't doing his job, then that's something we should talk to him about during the appraisal cycle. And maybe we should find somebody else if we're not happy with the way he's doing it. But what we should not do, and again, it's probably my military background, but what we don't do is undermine his authority by taking some of the jobs that he's supposed to be doing or that he's supposed to be leading and getting in the way. He's responsible to the commission, and he's been very responsive. Every time I've had a question, it was back to me immediately. So he knows exactly who to talk to. It preserves the chain of command and his ability to run the city on a day-to-day basis. And if we're not happy with the way he does that, then there's a way to handle that. But it's not getting in his way. So I guess my final remark is I certainly would like your vote, as would the two that are up here with me today. But whether you vote for me or not, I served 23 years in the Air Force to partially to provide the opportunity for everybody to have the right to vote. And if you do me one thing, I don't care who you vote for. Yeah, I kind of do. I kind of do. But do me a favor and make sure you show up at the polls. This is your chance to be able to influence government, and I wish that you would do that. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent remarks there. Tammy, go ahead and give your closing remarks.
Okay, I have some notes. So, I've had the honor to serve on the Board of Commissioners for the City of Enid and as the Ward 5 Commissioner for nearly 8 years, and I would like to continue that service as Enid's next mayor. I love Enid, and while it may have its challenges, like everywhere else does, it's my home, and my mission is to make it a place that everyone loves to live. Issues that are important to me are definitely making sure that we have the infrastructure that we need to support our citizens and their needs, continuing the progress that has been happening in Enid over the last 10 years, and everything we can do to improve the quality of life in Enid. I believe we need to have a leader that is willing to do what's right for the greater good of Enid and its citizens, that is aggressive and unwilling to allow Enid to stagnate or move backwards, and someone that loves the city and wants to see it bloom where it is planted. Growing up doesn't necessarily mean growing out. We can recognize the amazing potential we have without becoming a big city. Enid's charm is that it has many of the amenities of a larger city with a small town feel that so many of us love. I want Enid to be a place that people love to live, love to visit, and love to do business. We need more retail, we need more quality restaurants, we need more entertainment options, we need a better movie theater, we need more things for our kids to do. We all have talked about all of those things. We've been working towards those things recently, and in the entire time I've been there really, and that I would definitely keep pushing for those things, as well as more industry that provides good jobs and good wages. And all of these things that we've talked about in one way or another boost our economy, and then that gives us support that we need for our infrastructure. So like I said earlier, all of these things are parts of a big puzzle, and they're all important to the running of the city. And as the mayor, I would push all of those things so that we are a well-rounded city and that we can make sure that we recognize everything that we have the potential to do. I have been and will continue to work towards those issues, and it takes a willingness to make hard decisions and take some risks, and I definitely have that willingness. And like George said, regardless of what your vote is, everybody up here has a passion for this city, and so that no matter what happens, I hope that we can all support each other after this is over, because we all have nothing but the best interest of Enid at heart.
Love that, excellent. Mr. Mitchell, to close things out.
Well, I agree, and I know that we will all work together to make sure that the job is done. Again, I think the mayor has to be a strong leader. He's a person that's supposed to be the face of the city. So he's supposed to be the person that's leading the city, not following. He's supposed to be leading. I appreciate the city manager. I think the city manager is supposed to manage. He's not supposed to lead. He's supposed to manage. There's a difference in managing, and there's a difference in leading. He's supposed to be the manager. He's supposed to work with the city council. He's supposed to work with us and do what it is that we vote on and what's implemented, and then he sees to it that it gets done. So that's his job, and I expect that he'll do his job. If I get to be mayor, I will expect that out of him. And I will expect his expertise, whatever expertise in whatever areas that he has. I expect him to share that with all of us. I may not be the smartest man in the world, but I certainly like to have really smart people around me that will give me counsel or give me advice, and I like to share what I do have. I think it's time for us to have good, common sense government. Good common sense government means being fiscally responsible, being responsible and answering to the citizenship. I think we need a lot more transparency. We need to get our citizens involved. We have one of the greatest untapped resources around, and that is the people themselves. The citizens of Enid have really good, great ideas, and we have to take some time to start to listen to them and pay attention to it and garner the best of those ideas and try to bring those ideas into fruition. So since the mayor is going to be the face of the city, that's his job, even though I know it's not a paid position, but as mayor of the city of Enid, what I intend to do, I intend to go to cities like Stillwater, Tulsa, Fort Worth, and different other cities, and talk to those local mayors and find out what it is that they are doing and how they are doing what they are doing that's making their cities become successful. And I want to bring those ideas back to our city, and hopefully we can implement some of those, maybe not exactly the same, but in a way that would be conducive for the city of Enid. I want to take advantage of technology and begin to promote our educational systems that we have in Enid. Northern Oklahoma College is a great college, so is Northwest Oklahoma State, and we have OT Autry out here. We should be promoting those schools and bringing in more students, and that will also help us in our revenue, and it just makes Enid a better place to live. Strong leadership is what we need. Change is what we need. So vote for Mitchell. I'm on a mission. And I'm on a mission to do something for this city and make it better. So Milton's on the move. Vote for me. Don't vote for me.
Do you have a catchphrase? Do you have a catchphrase to add on to that? Yeah. All right, well.
Enid's on the move.
I don't have one either, it's all good. Well, I want to thank each one of you, George Pankonin, Tammy Wilson, and Milton Mitchell, for a great night. You've been absolutely fantastic. For all of you being here,